Right, it is March the 2nd, 2025. First t-shirt day of the year, so it's a really nice, sunny, warm day. We did have a slight frost this morning. We got down to -1, so that was a little bit chilly first thing, but now the sun's out. It really is quite pleasant. I'll have a look in a minute what the actual temperature is on the thermometer out in the garden, but we're just going to have a quick look at the Waggies we bought last weekend, so a week ago, and they are planted up. This is the Treecharpus Wagneranus from B&M. So we've got one either side of the hothouse there, and the other one is there. Won't get full effect until we move this Brahea armata out into the garden. That'll be another month or so before I put that in the ground. Get rid of these cooler nights first. So the Waggies were in these, I'm going to say 10-litre pots, big old pots, and they look like they're sort of field grown and dug up, and there's a lot of roots on the top. But when I took them out of the pot, and I should have done this on video last week when I bought them, but they were actually rooted out quite nicely. The roots were right to the bottom and started to form the shape of the pot, so they were rooted quite well. So I'm hoping they weren't pot bound, they were just the right time to transplant, so they should settle in nicely and take off. Right, so again, beautiful day. It's so tempting to spend a day taking all these shelters down, but again, we are still having the odd cool night. We've escaped the frosts up until last night, and we got the -1. Yes, we've got a plane going overhead. Yeah, so actually it's only, I don't know, we can read that through there, it's 9.7 degrees, so it is in the shade there. You'd think, oh, it's not that warm, or nearly 10 degrees, but in that sun, like I say, first t-shirt day of the year, it's very pleasant out here. So looking over in this corner where the Gunnera was, I dug that out a couple of days ago. There's a big crater there, and I've moved the big 5-foot tree fern in its place. So we've got an evergreen plant to fill that big open space there, and I positioned it pretty much the same growing angle as it was, so I haven't, you know, turned it round or anything. It's exactly the same facing position as it was grown originally, so that should help a little bit with the transplant shot I have, transplant shock. It's easy to, when you've got foliage like this, to get the foliage looking nice where you want it, but I was more interested in the trunk. The foliage will change, that's going to flush out in the next month or two. This is why I've moved it now before the flush starts. It may restrict the flush a little bit now I've cut some of the roots, but bearing in mind that the trunk itself is all roots, and I did get a couple of foot rounded root ball at the bottom, a good 1.5 foot deep as well, so there's some good underground roots as well as the trunk itself. I'm sure by next year that'll be back into full flush, so that may be restricted a little bit this year, but no big deal. Let's just have a little bit of a closer look. So coming in here, so this was where the Gunnera was, so it's a bit muddy at the moment, and it was taken up a area of about 3.5 to 4 foot that way, and probably nearly 5 foot that way. So that all came out. I cut that down into growing points with the rhizome. There's 6 large chunks of that. That's gone to its new home already, and the tree fern is in. I put a couple of stakes in. Really the only wind that's going to affect this newly planted tree fern is coming from the side of the hothouse here. The wind rattles down the side of the fence, so I've put the main support sort of 2 struts that way, just to, the wind's going to hit it from here, so that will, I mean, you'd think, oh well, I'll put a stake that way, which would have been ideal, but I didn't want to disturb the root mass of the other tree fern too much. And there's a trachycarpus at the back there as well. So yeah, there's nothing really planted around where these 2 are, so I put 2 in instead of 1, just to give it a little bit of extra, so it doesn't wobble too much, so the roots can settle in. I've put about 3 watering cans full of water in the crown, over the trunk and into the ground, so all the soil settles around the roots. That was quite muddy round here anyway, because I've got a gutter coming off the hothouse which drips down for the gunner to keep the ground wet. That's obviously going to do the same thing for the tree fern. That's literally sort of dripping more or less in the crown of the tree fern and down the trunk, so whenever it rains that'll get good soaking, as well as having a drip line on it. Yeah, so it's quite muddy there and wet already, but yeah, like I say, I chucked a load more water on it, put some good compost around it and some horse manure as well. I did actually put a little farfugium next to it as well, just so there's a bit of a blank area. And obviously I've got some planting opportunities around here, which will be later on in spring when we get around to doing that, so that should hopefully settle in over the next month, and we'll keep an eye on the new flush and see if that's affected it or not. Probably will do a little bit, I'd imagine. I've never really moved a big tree fern. I have moved this smaller one and that didn't really set it back at all, but we will see. So yeah, that is now in place. So obviously we all know it's nice to have plantings of 3. This is only 2 tree ferns, but the smaller tree fern is actually turn into double header, so that will effectively look like 3 tree ferns. And we've got a nice sort of canopy of the 2 different levels as well. So this one's about 3.5 foot and that one's about 5 foot, but I probably did lose a little bit of the trunk height on the one freshly transplanted, because I did put it in a little bit deeper just to make it a bit more stable. And yeah, I mean the fronds themselves are pretty high enough. Should be quite happy there. So it's now giving me a double canopy of tree fern. Now I quite like the look of that, and also what that's going to do in the height of summer when the sun comes right round. That's going to block a little bit of sun out of the hothouse, which is not a bad thing, because that gets ridiculously hot in there even with the windows open. So that's going to help in a small part to shade that a little bit as well. So yeah, I'm very happy how that went. That weren't too big a deal moving that. I took a little bit to cut through the root mass of the tree fern itself, because they're quite thickly matted roots. So I had a sharp shovel on that and managed to get through it. Let's look at the area where it came out. It was a little bit restricted with other plants around it, so this is where that transplanted tree fern was originally. So it's between the two large cord lines here, and that the canopy was about this level, just around the fence level. So it looks a little bit more open now. It does, like I say, it was a little bit restricted because I have got a lot of plants around the tree fern where it was. So I had the Mahonia soft caress there, but that's quite flexible, so that didn't really cause a problem. I was more concerned about the big leaf rhododendron and the fatsia, but managed to get that tree fern out without any damage to any of the plants. So that's good. Yeah, so like I say, at the moment I know we've got the shrubs at the back there with the fatsia and the rhododendron, but yeah, we're sort of missing a bit of height there. But that tree fern I bought just before Christmas, or it might have been November time, I can't really remember, the Cyathea medullaris black tree fern, which will stay in a pot because it's not really hardy, so I can overwinter that in the hothouse. But yeah, that'll go where the tree fern was originally, and that'll give me the height, but also because it's only got like 3 or 4 really big leaves on the black tree fern, you still see through it and enjoy the rest of the foliage around it as well. So that should work out quite nicely. I have got a bit of a gap to the right here where we can see there's a bit of a stump of a old tetrapanix which I dug out last year, and it didn't really take, and that's sort of rotted out now, so that's going to come out. And I've got another small tree to go in there. We'll look more into that when we're a bit further into springtime. But yeah, so this area should still look quite lush, and also we've got all the, now that that tree fern's gone, we can see that the self-seeded cord lines from the big ones. I'm still debating whether to take this one out. I mean, it is nearly 5 foot now, but it's, I don't know, might be in a way a little bit. I'll get the tree fern, pot of tree fern in there, and we'll see how it looks. But that one might come out. I'm not going to try and dig it out and save it. That'll just be literally just yanked out, and that can die. So we've got plenty of cord lines growing. Like I say, these are all self-seeded cord lines here and here, so they're coming up everywhere in the garden. I have to dig them out regularly in the spring. That's not a big deal. Yeah, so I will say the Gunnera was a bit of a pain digging that out because the rhizome was huge, and even though I cut it into 6 chunks, that Gunnera rhizome really was substantial. That's heavy, big chunks. But yeah, that's gone and out the way now, so we've not got to worry about watering that over summer and trying to make that look good. Yeah, so that's really what I've been doing. So tempting on a day like this to start getting some plants out and planting up, but again, we're still getting them cool nights, so that's still a little way off as yet. Maybe by the end of the month we'll take up all these shelters and open the garden up again and start planting. I can't wait for that point. But in the meantime, yeah, we're getting little chunks done here and there as and when possible. So yeah, the new tree fern's in. I'm very happy with that. It's looking good. Like I say, that was that looked good for, like say, 3 months of the year when the Gunnera was in there, but for the rest of the 9 months of the year, that was just an empty space. So that's far better now with the tree fern there. I'm happy with that. And once that all settles down around that way, we get a few more plantings around there, maybe some smaller ferns and whatnot, that should all look a bit more natural. Nice shady corner for the tree ferns. Obviously the foliage is in full sun, but the trunk will pretty much be in shade all day, and the foliage takes full sun here in the UK, no problem. You can plant a tree fern in full sun. They will do better in shade, but as long as they're watered adequately, they will take full sun. Again, maybe not in a drier, hotter area or country, but in the UK they do okay. Right, so that is pretty much it. I'm gonna enjoy, well, I am enjoying being outside and soaking up this sun, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a bit cooler again tonight, but we're going in the right direction. Everything seems a bit more positive when the sun's out and it's nice and warm. And yeah, I'll do the annual Phoenix canariensis trim up in the next few weeks once the nights have warmed up a little bit. I don't like cutting it if you're going to get a frost. You don't want frost damage on a freshly cut point, but I would like to tidy this up. And we've got a few low fronds on this now, and the trunk is really starting to expand outwards, so I'd like to give that a nice neater diamond cut, just to just to neaten the trunk up a bit and really enjoy the size of the trunk now. Now it's really sort of spread outwards. I think that'll start going upwards now as well. So once we've trimmed that up, we'll have a good look at that and maybe get the actual size on that, just out of interest to see the girth on it, circumference, and get an actual idea of the height as well. Yeah, needless to say, that's done absolutely fine over winter. We've had no temperatures cold enough to worry that, and even though, yeah, we've had -4s on a few occasions, but even the coloured cord lines, the Southern Splendour, still looking pretty much flawless, looking good. Right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, we'll catch you on the next one.